So there's something happening, kind of behind the scenes. A new currency is being forged. And its goal? Well, it's not to replace the cash in your wallet. It's way more ambitious than that. We're talking about a whole new financial system, one designed to be completely immune to American power. You're going to want to remember this date, January 22nd, 2026, because on that day, a very quiet but very real financial revolution is set to begin. And it could challenge over 70 years of economic dominance. Okay, so look at this. On one hand, you've got the system we all know, right? The paper, the trust in a single nation. But on the other, you've got this new challenger. It's digital, it's backed by actual physical gold, and it's being built by this whole alliance of nations that are just looking for another way. And look, we're not talking about some fringe experiment here. The group behind this new currency, they represent nearly half the people on Earth, 45%. This is a real heavyweight contender stepping into the ring. All right, let's get into it. To really understand what this challenger is all about, we have to first understand the champion, the US dollar. I mean, for decades, it has been the undisputed king of global finance, no question. You see, the thing about the dollar being the world's reserve currency is that almost all international trade, it flows through US banks. And that gives America something called extraterritorial power. It's basically the ability to project its influence way, way beyond its own borders. And the main weapon in that arsenal? Sanctions. I mean, which is the flip of a switch. The US Treasury can literally cut an entire country off from the global financial system. It can cripple their economy overnight. It is an incredibly powerful tool. So you can imagine, in response to that kind of power, a group of nations has been, well, quietly building an alternative. They're calling it the unit. And its entire design, its very DNA, is meant to be immune to that kind of pressure. So what is it exactly? Well, the unit is anchored by real physical stuff. 40% of its value, you can see it right there, is tied directly to physical gold. You know, that timeless store of value. The other 60%, that's backed by a basket of 5 major emerging currencies. And this basket has a nickname, the R5. It's pretty simple, really. It's because each currency starts with the letter R. You've got the Brazilian real, the Russian ruble, the Indian rupee, the Chinese renminbi, which people often just call the yuan, and the South African rand. This isn't just about money. It's a huge statement of an economic alliance. Okay, and this is a really crucial point. The unit isn't trying to be the new dollar. It's designed as a settlement asset, not a reserve currency. So what does that mean? Think of it less like money you'd keep in a vault and more like a special token. A token used for instant, direct payment for big things, like oil or grain, between these member countries. It's all about bypassing the dollar system completely. But, having a new asset isn't enough. You need new plumbing, right? A whole new highway for money to travel on that the old powers can't just shut down. And that's where this technology called mBridge comes into the picture. This really breaks it down perfectly. For decades, everything has run on SWIFT. It's a messaging network that's, monitored and heavily influenced by the US. Transactions can be slow, they can take days, and most importantly, they can be blocked. mBridge, on the other hand, is a blockchain alternative. It's decentralized, which means no single country is in charge. Settlements happen in seconds, not days. And yeah, by its very design, it is sanction-proof. And this isn't just some idea on a whiteboard. Pilot trades are already happening on the mBridge network. Russia and China, they're settling oil trades. Deals are being done with commodity-rich nations like the UAE. The goal is pretty clear. They're trying to build and test out this parallel economy before the big launch. Of course, you can bet the United States is not just sitting back and watching this happen. The response has been a really clear, powerful threat. Any nation that fully jumps on board with this new system could get hit with 100% tariffs. We're talking about triggering an all-out trade war. The battle lines are definitely being drawn. So, why should you care about any of this? Because a fight between these giant global financial systems, it's not just some abstract geopolitical chess game. It has very, very real consequences for your wallet, your savings, and your financial future. So let's just ask the question. When a real, credible alternative to the dollar suddenly appears on the world stage, what does that mean for the money sitting in your bank account? Well, it could set off a kind of chain reaction. First, if countries start using the unit for trade, then the global demand for US dollars starts to drop. And basic economics tells us when demand falls, so does value. So as the dollar gets weaker, the cost of everything we import, from our phones to our coffee, it goes up. That's inflation. And what that really means at the end of the day is that the money you've worked hard to save is just worth less. Your purchasing power gets eroded. But you have to wonder, how did we even get to this point? How did the world's most powerful currency become this vulnerable? Well, the truth is, the dollar system has kind of carried the seeds of its own challenge for decades. It's all built on a fundamental contradiction. It's a famous concept called the Triffin dilemma. Basically, the country that prints the world's money is always torn between two jobs. On one hand, you have to do what's best for your own people at home. On the other, you have to do what's best to keep the whole global economy stable. And over time, those two goals, they inevitably clash. That creates frustration, and that's what inspires the search for an alternative. You could say the unit is a direct result of that exact dilemma. And so, here we are. We're entering this new era with two competing global financial systems. One is built on the power of a single nation, and the other is built on a decentralized alliance. As they start to clash, it really forces all of us to think about a fundamental question. When two global systems compete, which one do you trust?